Well, I think that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you everybody for showing up today. For those who don't know, I am Hunter, the community manager over here at Offchain Labs, building Arbitrum. I'm joined today, co-host, by Luke, who's on our partnerships team as well. Luke, how's it going?
Hey, everybody. Great to be here. Yeah, partnerships team.
Awesome. And today we're speaking with the Vertex protocol team. Darius, who's the co-founder, and Alwyn, who's also a co-founder and CTO over there at Vertex. How you guys doing?
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, fantastic. Very excited.
Likewise, yeah, and I guess just a very very small background for those who don't know. Vertex is actually building on Arbitrum, and we've actually hung out with their team actually before. Both, obviously you've been speaking a little while beforehand, but also in person too. Great guys. Very excited about today's conversation. But I think before we do get into everything Vertex, maybe you guys can start off a little bit about your backgrounds and maybe just how you got to where you're at today.
Sure. Shall I go first? So my background, I started my career in options trading. So I worked in a large bank trading currency options, and then moved from that into commodities markets. I ran a couple of large bank trading desks in metals. I left that in about 2013, and then spent 5 years from around 2015-ish, 14, 15, helping set up a commodities fund. So ran a number of strategies and set up a prop business. Got into trading crypto in like 16, 17. I was doing a bunch of stuff on BitMEX and playing around with Kimchi Arb and shit like that. Kind of drifted away from it for a couple of years and then jumped back in full time about 2 years ago. Ran trading at a couple of crypto shops and then decided to take the leap and build my own thing in DeFi, and went looking for a co-founder and met Alwyn.
Yeah, so fairly unconventional background for me. So I joined like jump trading basically out of high school at 18. So I happened to be on the crypto desk there. So I spent like 5 months at Jump just building crypto shit. And then after those 5 months, I was like, yeah, I want to like do this on my own. So I ended up quitting. So I started Random Earth, which became the largest NFT marketplace on Terra. So I think we did like $100 million in like cumulative trading volume or something crazy like that. Um, but then like near the end of last year, wanted to like do something like more financy, and then that's like where I got introduced to Darius, and that's sort of kind of like Vertex started to take root.
That's amazing. I love to hear that. I think what you guys bring to the table is definitely, well needed in this space, especially given both of your extensive backgrounds in the trading space. And, I actually also did trading for a little bit, and I'm glad you guys were, I used to work for a PM. He was very against crypto. And I remember clearly some of those conversations with him, and I'm glad you guys are, forward looking. It's actually probably what motivated me to get more into it, because I'm like, this guy can't be totally right on his conclusions. But I'd love to hear more about Vertex. I know this is, the newest DEX that's built on Arbitrum. Can you dive deeper into what Vertex is and maybe tell us about some of the unique factors of it?
Sure. So I think Vertex is a little bit unconventional. Most people, when they think about DEXs, are thinking about somewhere where they can go and do one thing. So it's, swapping on Uniswap, or it's doing borrow lend stuff on Aave, or it's doing perps on DYDX or GMX, for example. With Vertex, we really aim to be sort of an integrated place where you can do all your trading. So we've got a spot market, a perps market, and a money market. And what that means is all these strategies like looping and spot versus perp arbitrage, just kind of trading perps with different collaterals. We can do all that in one place. That's the kind of product side. And then the nice part is, with all those things lined up like that, we have a technology stack which effectively means we can be very low latency. Now, most people don't care about latency, but they do notice when shit is buggy or doesn't work, or you press and you get a delay. Our platform should not have that. So you should get something that looks and feels a bit more like trading on a centralized exchange, but without any of the bullshit where you give away your keys, you give away control of your assets, you don't know what's going on. So we're trying to kind of marry best of DeFi, best of CeFi, basically.
Very interesting. And I think one question I'm sure a lot of people have in their minds, like, all right, these guys are coming here, they're building another Dex, like, like what's the value prop here? As in, like, what made you guys create Vertex, and like, what are you kind of doing to stand out, from the rest of the other ones?
Yeah, it's a good question. As I said, it's kind of main thing is one, speed, two is convenience, three is efficiency. So it's super capital efficient. Like, you can deposit ETH with us and trade perps using the ETH as collateral is a really simple use case. But if you're someone who just wants to hold your underlying tokens, but you want some way to trade over the top, we're one of the few places you can do that. If you want to come and LP and you want to leverage up your LPs, you can come and do that with us. If you want to do that all but have HFT style liquidity sat on top of an order book, we offer that as well. So at the moment, most things are just so segmented, it can be very frustrating. The idea is we should solve all those frustrations and those problems with these kind of relatively small solutions that add up to a big solution at the end.
Yeah, to sort of paint a picture of like the sort of degenerate things that you could do. If you wanted to like lever up on LPs, for example, in spot, you could just mint LPs with more collateral than you actually have, and then it'll automatically take out a loan, and then you'll get your LP position. And not only are you going to earn like trading fees from people hitting your LPs, but you're also going to earn interest because like the underlying like tokens in that LP are going to be lent out to other people. And then if you really wanted to, you could like put a perps position on top of that and have like that whole thing collateralized itself. So there's just many more tools like in your arsenal in terms of efficiency.
So in a way, if I'm like picturing it from like, I don't know, like a user standpoint, it's almost like a mall of composability. As in, like, in malls you have many different types of stores where you can do your different types of shopping, but they're all in one specific location. In this case, it's obvious Vertex, is the mall, and all these different products that you guys have. You're offering like in house, so that people don't really have to go to different protocols to like do all these different DeFi tools. Does that sound like a accurate comparison?
Yeah, exactly that. So like ultimately we're trying to be like a sex, right? Like so you're not gonna like do perps trading on KuCoin and then do like margin spot trading on Binance. Binance just like has everything.
I think it's a very interesting approach, especially, you know, I feel like, I think a lot of people refer to it as like kind of building vertically, as in like just kind of making everything in house as much as possible, and just maximizing user experience from that perspective. And truly, I think for the most part, like building vertically does tend to yield pretty efficient, pretty like efficient products. I mean, even if we're talking about like in the world of Web 2, like you have like the Apples and the Teslas of the world. I mean, like both companies build relatively vertically, and the product, just a really refined piece of, in this case, hardware, but in crypto, I guess, software.
That's the idea. I might use that mall thing. It's good for our marketing.
You're welcome. When higher.
Yeah.
It's a very American analogy. Or it's just a mall here.
That's the one.
Yeah, so for Vertex, we kind of get the sense it's all-in-one DEX, which will eliminate the need for users to switch through multiple dApps. How are you guys envision? How is this work in practice? How are you guys envisioning this and enabling it?
Yeah, so from the technical side, like, um, we have like the way it's set up. We have like just multiple products, and then all of those products are just collateralized under like one risk engine, and then users are gonna have like sub accounts where they can, have like any product that they want, and then like they're all gonna contribute to like one global health score per account. So that's how like we support like all of those things in a capital efficient manner. In terms of like actually like getting it running, like and like the like, do you want me to talk more about like just general how we're gonna optimize performance and like low latency and things of that nature, or is it just like a risk engine sort of question?
Yeah, I mean, ideally both, if you could. I definitely think the first part would be definitely very useful. The risk engine, I'm not sure how technical people are, but I'm sure there are some folks who can relate.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to be super broad and vague, it like works very similarly to that of a centralized exchange. Um, all your tokens, like all your positions under one umbrella, nothing's like isolated, margined. In terms of like how we've set up the backend on testnet, we have sort of this like, I guess, semi-centralized like sequencer node, which routes orders. And the observation is that like if you deterministically know the order in which people's transactions are going to hit the chain, you can return them in optimistic state. So this means that like you can place an order and we can get you like a response in like 90 milliseconds or something like that, as long as like you trust our centralized sequencer. Um, Obviously, if you don't trust our centralized sequencer, then you can like wait for it to eventually hit the chain. Um, and then the way we've set the rest of it up is like somewhat similar to Arbitrum, where like the default state is you have like this slow mode through LPs. So it's like the sequencer is like this optional component that kind of lets you like fast forward and get really fast responses, but it's not necessary because the risk engine and um, alternative trading venues also exist on chain.
Yeah, I think if I was going to give the TLDR on what Alwyn said, like in many ways, is a very conventional DEX. It has a few bells and whistles. So we have spot, perps, money market. It's all collateralized, and the risk management's all done on chain. But then above it, we have this kind of helper function, which is the sequencer, which speeds everything up. And that speeding up lets us do some nice things around running an order book and offering good liquidity from market makers.
Very interesting. If I may dive actually into that bit a little bit more, like, is this I guess just starting off, like the sequencer, like how does it, like does it work in tandem with the Arbitrum sequencer in that, like, there needs to be like a sequencer on chain for it to work, or or for example, would this even be possible on Ethereum?
Yeah, it would be possible on like any EVM chain. We're just using the term sequencer, but yeah, probably some naming conflicts that might get confusing.
I was gonna say, because I mean, like, obviously, yeah, like there's a sequencer in Arbitrum one, but I figure maybe there's like some sort of sequencerception going on that, like, you know, transactions, I guess, on your engine are able to be, kind of put through, first come first serve. I would assume, similar to how the sequencers, how our sequencer kind of sequences transactions on Arbitrum. But interesting. Okay. Is there like is there any more deep dive we can do on that, like from like a tech perspective? By the way, I think our audience is divided into both techies and degens, so I think anything we can talk about is fair game.
I mean, so like you can, it's like very similar to like how you expect like um, 0x to work, where or like the original 0x, where you'd sort of have like a centralized matching engine, and like all that is some entity that happens to order transactions and like submit them in batches to the chain. Um, and then like we have like some logic on chain that like enables you to like push transactions through. So we can be like censorship resistant. So even if like the sequencer like goes down, like you can still like transact.
Very interesting. Yeah. Is there then like I guess apart with that and maybe anything else? Is there a reason why you guys chose to launch on Arbitrum specifically? Definitely a self-serving question, by the way.
I think for us, when we looked around, kind of the choices for us were we wanted to be building a Solidity, and we wanted to go where there was kind of maximal assets available for trading. Was the kind of first filter we applied. And when you looked at that, the obvious choice was you wanted to be in the Ethereum ecosystem. But given that we were going to be doing something related to trading, and that meant high frequency of transactions, you wanted to be on an L2. So that kind of narrowed the search a lot. And then when we looked at the universe of L2s, we feel there's like a lot of promise in kind of zero knowledge projects, but there isn't one that's really executed on an EVM in a way that would be suitable to deploy a project on. And so we kind of narrowed everything down to basically it was Arbitrum and Optimism. And when we looked at the Arbitrum ecosystem, you guys have done a great job in executing. Projects were onboarding. We felt like it was organic and there'd been growth and there were users actually onboarding, and it just made sense.
No, yeah, and I think it's even worth saying there too that like you know we're committed to like the best technology available at the end of the day, and today that's optimistic rollups. Maybe at some point in the future it'll be ZK rollups, but if like at that point, like if that does become the case, we're happy to uh, you know like look into it and obviously I guess pivot if need be. But I think that's probably like what's needed. I think especially from like like obviously projects like Vertex, like you guys are looking for chains that are going to be like sustainable long term and that have thriving ecosystems. And I think the only way for like chains to do that, again similar to us, is to really be open to like the whole idea that this space moves so quick that like in a year, maybe sometimes even less time, like certain things become obsolete and certain things don't. But I think it's just keeping an open mind from that perspective is like so important. Um, so yeah, we're more than happy to have you guys deploying on us, especially considering your the way you guys thought about things when you're looking for your chains.
Yeah, and obviously, like if they bring in sharding and everything, it reduces costs so much that there's the difference between optimistic and ZK kind of collapses in a little bit as well. So there's just all sorts of things going on there. It's kind of interesting to see how it evolves.
Yeah, I think we're definitely excited for that. And the sharding that everyone talks about, the EIP 4844 and also 4484, which I think will be really huge for the roll up space in general, and hopefully will help you guys and other teams process more and do more.
So I know you guys are launching your test very soon. What should users be expecting from it? As in, like, what's gonna go live same day? Are you guys doing any kind of events during it? Give us the rundown.
Yeah, so we already launched a closed test net actually. So a few users are already on there interacting with the DApp. Feedback so far has been good. Um, I think the first event you should expect that there are probably going to be some bugs. That's why we're doing testnet. So we appreciate the feedback. Users have been very engaged and helpful. I think you'll see, first of all, hopefully you'll see how fast we move. Team evolves things really quickly. Got a great front end team. Alwyn runs a great shop on the back end as well. So we are evolving that very quickly. Our marketing team is starting to tease forward lots of different things. We're building an ambassador program. So we're looking for people to engage with the platform, help us promote it out into the community and build a whole bunch of people around it. And then there'll be some teasers as we go into launch.
Are there sorry, I'm sorry if I don't know if I missed or not, but so is everything live on that current closed test net, or is it only like a specific aspect of it?
So the current closed test net is the perps and spot. The money market piece is not fully live yet, but that'll launch soon. And then as we go through, we'll probably launch our LPs on the front end after mainnet launch. There's quite a lot to build out there to make sure it's clear for users, because we'll be adding a lot of leveraged LP functionality, and it can get very complicated.
That's pretty insane, by the way. You guys are launching with technically 2 to 3 different products. That's pretty insane. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, it's driving our product manager a little bit insane as well, but he's doing a great job building that shit out. So shout out to Colin. He's been working very hard.
That's amazing. Yeah, for sure. And definitely respect the kind of amount you guys are able to deliver and have on that roadmap. Just a bit more about your roadmap. What should the Arbitrum community expect from Vertex in the next few months beyond the initial launch period? What else do you have going, and maybe also part of the initial launch?
I think probably the most exciting thing for people is we won't be launching with a token, but we will be launching with a kind of mining program. So the idea would be that the first 6 months of the platform, people will have an opportunity to become invested in a community by trading with us. We're still fleshing out the details on that, but that will be public before mainnet launch, and that users are able to participate in the platform and become kind of invested, if you like, via the token, and that'll be a big part of building community and building stability around the platform.
Yeah, that's amazing. Could you actually, I know you mentioned you touched on the ambassador program a little bit. What are ways, how do you envision that? What are ways that people will get involved outside of being a user? How can they, how can they be ambassadors?
I believe that the ambassador program is going to go live in the next couple of days. So if you keep an eye on our website, you should see some stuff go up, or keep an eye on our Twitter. We'll put some links up, and you'll see lots of things about how you can get involved and start building some credibility on that program.
Great. That sounds amazing. I think it's smart of you guys to go for that approach. Not having a token makes you focused on building the product, and makes focus you. I guess you're also taking into the customer's kind of point of view, with the investor stuff, and really just focused on the product and the customer, which is great.
Yeah, we want to flesh everything out before we start focusing everyone on token price.
I can tell it's definitely very strategic. I can already see the gears turning in Darius's head.
There's just only so many lines of inquiry you can deal with at one time, and I think the token can be a little distracting. And I think maybe other projects have sometimes put the focus on their token where maybe the focus could have been on the product a little earlier. And so we want to kind of avoid that and make sure that we're delivering best experience for community rather than focusing on one thing, which is token.
If I may ask, and I definitely get if you guys maybe haven't got up to this part, in your planning, but do you have more or less an outlined plan for decentralization? I guess whether that be included through a said token that you're talking about, or or anything else?
Yeah, so in terms of tokenomics, that part is relatively well fleshed out in our light paper. Um, I won't go into all the details of it, but essentially, value generated in the ecosystem routes back into the token, um, and governance will also happen there. So the longer people hold the token, the more participation they'll get in governance, and the focus is just all on utility driving into the token, right? When you say how do you fully decentralize, like the question of how you run a DAO well is a really difficult one, and it's something that we're spending a lot of time thinking about. I think there are some great examples in the space. We really like the way synthetics run their DAO. I think something like that, where you have a kind of parliament, if you like, which is your kind of user community, but then you have specialist committees that deal with various aspects of the protocol, makes a lot of sense. Because when you're running a trading protocol, you see it with other protocols when they have issues. You need people who can make decisions and have feedback quickly. And that is what we want our DAO to be able to do. And that means building various layers. So there will be over time lots of opportunities for community members to participate in that DAO, whether it's in the general kind of user community and electing people, whether it's actually trying to be on one of these committees and contribute with some form of expertise. But obviously, like, different people will suit different roles, and that will evolve over time.
No, I think that that's definitely a great point of view. I think to take. I like, I think everyone can agree at the end of the day that decentralization is more of a spectrum. It's not something that you hit one day. And frankly, I mean, you know, even I think even like being I think of it like maybe a couple of years into like DeFi and kind of this whole idea of decentralizing protocols and having the people run them. We're still very early, and I mean I don't know. I mean like yeah, you definitely mentioned synthetics as maybe like a kind of like a good example of a running one. But I think even generally, it's really hard to find like kind of solid examples of like a truly like well run, well oiled machine in terms of like a decentralized protocol. And yeah, I guess that's part of the fun of being crypto and actually being part of the decentralizing of specific protocols. Protocols, I mean, especially ones that you like yourself.
Yeah, I think the fact that you can have tokenomics and unique forms of governance and user participation. There's like all sorts of weird and wonderful things you can do. I think the thing that is difficult is boiling it down to the essentials and making sure it works efficiently.
Oh yeah, and I think also in a way it's like it's kind of funny because it's like some of these we're definitely by the way like getting on the fringes of this, so I promise I'll bring it back. But I feel like that's the idea that like people like who aren't necessarily in like kind of like the crypto community can get access to some of these shares of governance, aka tokens, on like different centralized exchanges that have nothing to do with the protocol itself, like is also kind of a little weird to me because it's like okay, obviously there's some sort of monetary value to it, but it's supposed to be a way for you to participate in governance. I don't know. It's just such an interesting question, I guess. And yeah, I'm truly interested to see how DAOs kind of evolve over time, including Vertex's DAO as well.
Yeah, I think that was part of why before we issued the token, we really wanted to make it so that the tokens first and foremost flow to the user community before anyone else. By doing this kind of liquidity mining program, it means that the first raft of people who get it are the ones who are most using it. That for us puts alignment in place and means that like we get the right incentive structures put there from the off.
Totally got you there. I think we can also now pivot to some of the community questions that some of the people had in the post that we sent out yesterday. We're going to start off with one of them here. What kind of partnership with different projects, platforms, protocols can we expect from Vertex in the future? And maybe can you give us some examples of how other projects can leverage Vertex?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many DeFi strategies that are possible on Vertex, but like an easy example would be like a vault program. Someone could come and easily do things like spot perp up to just generate yield. So if you wanted a vault that generates yield on your dollars in the most efficient way possible, you invest with that vault. That vault then comes and places their cash with Vertex all in one place. You buy spot, sell perp, earn a yield, off you go. Um, you can, we could do stuff with our project to partner with others so they could leverage our smart contracts. Alwyn, what you got?
Um, yeah, so I think one of the things we've been talking about is giving like any like DeFi project who are like making their own like financial primitives the ability to like access our order book. Because like being able to like directly interact with like traditional market makers on like a book with like extremely low latency is like pretty useful. So we've been just talking through a lot of ways and how to like have permissionless listing of assets and just the opening of new derivative types inside of our risk engine.
I think I would love actually maybe more your thoughts on that specifically because I feel like there have been a couple of teams that I think take the same approach, and then some others that say we rather kind of vet the teams that are being listed on our platform in the first place, just to make sure I guess that their requirements I guess are fit the needs of ours. Do you guys take that same approach? Do you feel like it's just much better to have a permissionless listing, from the beginning? Love to hear your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, so I think at the very start it makes sense to like have a permissionless approach, right? And sorry, a permissioned approach. And like it's mostly going to be us at the start. Like we want like a very like white labeled exchange experience. Then like as we like prove that our infrastructure is like working and it's very resilient, that's when we can actually like start like showing other projects like, hey, you should use this. Our exchange works really well, and like you could like press a button and have your own. And then at that point it makes more sense to like go into more permissionless and eventually like we would want a world where like anybody can just like access our sequencer and then have their own exchange that's just an instance of Vertex that's been deployed somewhere and we don't even have to know like who they are.
Yeah, it's super. That's really interesting. I was thinking, the next question, I think, if it makes sense to move on to that, was what innovations has Vertex brought to the DeFi space, and how is Vertex changing the new DeFi ecosystem, and what are the plans for the next few years?
So I think right now I don't think anybody is doing like general like cross margin type stuff for EVM. So that's one. Two is like, I think our backend like infrastructure is very valuable. So part of that is that we have like an incredibly fast EVM execution environment. So that might be like just something interesting for later. And then the other thing that we've been working on is just trying to like make our sequencer decentralized. So I've like not slept for like the past few days because I've been like specking it out. But yeah, I think we're pretty excited about that.
Oh, interesting. May I ask, like, what would go into decentralizing your sequencer? I mean, I'm definitely it's definitely not the same thing as probably ours, right? Like, fair sequencing, for example, that like Chainlink has and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah. For us, we have like a much more specialized case, so I think it's going to be an easier problem for us. But I think like we should flesh things out more and maybe talk about this a few months from now when we actually have things up and running.
Yeah, basically, this is the thing Alwyn and I are super excited about and spent a lot of time talking about and working on, as well as getting to market. But it's this is just going to have to be an alfalfa drop for now. and we'll talk about it more once it's ready to talk about.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Try not to be too pushy on these AMAs. We're still partners.
Fair enough. Don't ask, don't get, right?
Yeah, no worries.
Hunter, you a decentralization maxi? So pointed, these questions.
Always, always. All right, we have one last community question. Frankly, I think it's a little probably a mix of what we've already asked, but if there's anything different, maybe you can go ahead and answer them. But they ask, what is your top priorities for 2021? Maybe can you share some plans for the upcoming year? And I would say, how many color features of your project do you think Vertex has that makes it ahead of your competitors? That may have been a lot, by the way, so feel free to make me ask that again.
So top priorities. You said for 2021. I assume you mean 2023.
Oh yeah, I don't know why the guy put 2021. 2023. This is what happens when I don't make questions. 2023.
Yeah, I think for us, our first year kind of aligns with our launch, right? So our launch is aiming for kind of start of the year. I think first priority is get the product stable, get our full product set out, and by the time we're finished, you should be able to do spot, perps, money market, spread trading, leverage LPs, VAMM, with an order book, with decent liquidity and great volume, all in one place. And that we are aiming to achieve, let's say, by middle of next year. And so with that full product set, you're really looking at then the targets come around in two ways. One is technical, starts to go to this problem of the sequencer, which Alwyn referred to, but then more on the protocol development side, it will be twofold. One is developing partnerships with other protocols to kind of create an ecosystem around Vertex. We think we can be very useful as a primary liquidity source for a bunch of other smart people to come and do things with. The other piece of it is decentralizing governance, which you also referred to, but we will have a token drop next year. And once the token's in circulation, that becomes the kind of fly with decentralizing large aspects of governance. And so by the end of next year, we're kind of hoping Vertex can be an example of some of the cool things you can do with DeFi, some genuine technical steps forward, and in a genuine decentralized governance format. If we could achieve all those things, I think we would have done a great job. Even if we achieved 75% of those things, I think we would have done a great job.
Yeah, yeah, you guys are already doing a great job, and I think if you can achieve a few of those, you'll be doing a fantastic job. Totally agree.
Thanks, Luke. We need the pat on the back.
Yeah, I mean, developing a lot. I love it, and one of the things that I feel like you guys bring, a wealth of experience, and I kind of wanted to get your take on this. This is outside of the community questions, but what kind of things have you been able to see? Because I feel like you have a different angle, right? Like Alwyn's worked at Jump, Darius, you've been at a number of good TradFi institutions, operated trading desks, and obviously deal a lot with exchanges and you know intermediaries that you would work with at a bank. Have you incorporated any interesting lessons into Vertex as you're building this? Also, I imagine you've seen other central limit order books like Serum on Solana. Like what kind of lessons have you incorporated into making Vertex even better?
I think one of the interesting things that we've incorporated or kind of come full circle on probably informed the structure that Alwyn's come up with this off-chain node. most DeFi protocols really suffer from this problem of how do you bootstrap liquidity, right? And part of the problem is they make it very hard for conventional market making firms to come and provide liquidity. And the main issue with that is really operating fully on chain with the latency that implies and dealing with MEV. Our sequencer structure kind of precludes that and means that bootstrapping liquidity becomes a much easier prospect whilst retaining all the positive properties of being on chain. So I think removing that without making huge compromises in either direction has been very helpful. And I think it's been useful just in terms of building partnerships, both with other protocols and with institutional participants. I think we speak a range of languages, if you like. We can go into a bunch of environments, speak with people, understand the problems they're facing, and kind of include that in our planning. And it means that we've built a bunch of things that suit for many use cases rather than for one narrow use case. And our hope is that that broad church will make the protocol work better for everyone. Because a good trading platform needs many participants of many types, and we think we can do that.
Yep, totally. That makes sense. I think it sounds like you're catering to both the retail and institutional side, and I think you definitely need both. I don't think it's to have the optimal liquidity that best serves everyone. You definitely need both. So appreciate that answer. One thing was I saw you guys had a closed test net. One task, is that now open? And if so, how can people try it out?
I think for now the closed testnet list is full. We were really lucky. We had, I think close to 4,000 applicants. We've got a few hundred of those now helping us out. They're kind of kicking the tires. The plan is that we will go to a fully open testnet in the next couple of weeks, depending on the feedback from closed testnet. So this will probably be, let me just check the date so I make sure I'm not talking nonsense. Probably looking at earliest 7th of November, 14th of November. But if you keep an eye on our socials, we'll put announcements out as and when we approach the date.
Beautiful. Beautiful. In that case, I think we can probably end it off here. Just for people who are just generally looking to get involved in Vertex or, maybe contribute in any way. What's the best way for them to do that?
Easiest way is take a look at our ambassador program. I believe it's opening tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, Friday, and get your applications in there. We've got a couple of the team are on this call. I can see here looking through the names. They will be hungrily waiting for your applications, and it'll be a great way to get them on the ground floor and help us grow.
Awesome. Well, again, Darius, Dalwin, appreciate you guys for coming on today. Very interesting conversation we had.
You're welcome, Lunter, and speak to you soon. Thanks very much.
Yeah, it was a good time.
That was good.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.
Have a good one, y'all.
Hey guys, see y'all.